next drill I'm going to work on is about getting your arm into the right position for throwing. I've mentioned how important the legs are. Legs and hips, really using them properly is really the most important thing for throwing with strength that you can identify at any time and say focus on stepping into throw. It really is in many ways the most important thing. But what I'm about to show you now is really the next most important thing, and it's in some other ways the most important because it's this that's going to help players get a spiral, a nice looking throw, a throw that really looks like you're a quarterback. So if I'm trying to throw down the field this way, this is what I call the backswing, right? Now a lot of people have a variety of backswings. Here, really it's the swing that is this big one here, whichever way. If you can learn to simply be the most efficient possible, getting back to this position right here, you are going to have a quicker release. You are going to have less things that can go wrong in setting yourself up for a good throw. Therefore, this drill about learning where to place the ball is just so critical for getting a good throw. In fact, when I work on this with many players, they are amazed that if we simply start with the ball here and step and throw, they are amazed at how well they throw the ball with spirals, with accuracy and power. Now before I do this, it is a little bit tough on the shoulder in the sense that it's static. When your arm is swinging freely, you kind of don't put it in bad spots. So you do have to be careful when you do this drill that you get it into a good spot, but you have to get used to it, holding it static. You need to have some relaxation in your shoulder in terms of not just completely tense, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. So don't throw hard with this right away. Your shoulder has to warm up and get used to this drill a little bit. So 75%, you'll get a feel for it and you'll be able to throw quite hard, but not right away. So what is the right position for the arm to be in when throwing? So I'd like to start off with a little demonstration here. Make sure you can see everything. When I put the ball with my bicep level to the ground, my arm isn't straight up, my arm isn't straight back, it's in between, and the ball pointing sideways. Watch what happens when I turn to throw. The ball is pointing in the direction that I want to throw. Many people, when they put the arm back, like to have the ball pointing sideways. Now, first of all, I've had to twist my arm to go back, and then I step and throw, and notice that the ball is pointing sideways. When I do this, I have to put the ball back this way, and then I have to, and you'll see quarterbacks do this if you can watch slow motion, they then have to do this, and then they throw. The more actions you have to do, the more chance there is that they're not done, the more chance under pressure you won't do them. So the first thing is that good position. Bicep, ball sideways, and down. Now you might wonder about why it's down a little bit. I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's down a little bit. Now, when it's down, you might see, well, it's pointed down. But you have to remember that when we throw, the elbow will be like this. And so now that ball is pointing right where you want to. That also leads to control of the ball, where it's coming and doing that nice curve that we wanted while throwing hard. So that downward point is important. The other reason that downward point's important is it makes you firm up your wrist. When people flip the ball back, their wrist gets much more bent. But when I have it downward point, notice how flat that wrist is, which goes in with why I said there's very little wrist action in it. It's really about pronation and supination. And so that downward point leads to a very firm wrist, and the more you can take your wrist out of it, the better chance for consistency, accuracy, and it really power, because I find the grip is stronger with a firm wrist. I find the grip weaker with a bent wrist. So, the first drill, I take some time with each quarterback to make sure they understand what the right beginning throwing position is. So, I just call this reach, check, and throw. we're going to throw this way. I put the ball back and I'm looking at it. And I check for a flat bicep, a slightly back forearm, a ball sideways and down. I now look at my target. I'm taking my time to check, to look, step, and throw. Okay. Again, ball back, bicep, slightly back forearm, ball sideways and down, firm wrist even. Okay. Look at your target, step, and throw. You can do this drill with parallel. You won't be able to do it with right as much. It's kind of hard with the right foot forward, but parallel, I love doing this when parallel. I'll throw towards the camera. Here we go. We turn, we reach, we check, we look at our target, we throw. This drill can often awaken players to how well they have the potential to throw, because I find players, once they get used to getting that ball back there, throw with spirals, with accuracy. It's just, to me, one of the first drills that really shows the players how well they can throw and how simple the throwing action is if you simply get it to a good spot. Now at this point, that's great. We've shown them they can throw, but we don't get to start a play where we turn and take a snap and, oh, I'm going to check this and then I'm going to figure out who's open. Of course, we have to be able to do this second nature, instinctual, and make that good throw. So we have to now transition to being able to do this action more consistently as part of a throwing action. So the next thing I do is I do a practice and then I do the throw. So if I'm throwing this way, I will be setting up, looking at my target. I put the arm back, check it, bring down. Now, I'm now going to keep looking at the target and I'm going to try to simply put the ball back and throw. And then throw. Okay. So do it with a practice swing. Okay. That will still be very difficult. And so I have another way if it's still too difficult, and I'm going to do the same drill, but when I actually throw, I'm going to go back in slow motion. So here's the slow motion version. Okay. So set the arm back, do a practice swing, check, bring it back. Now, without taking a step, I'm going to do a practice, a reach back without looking. Nice step and throw. This makes you take the time to be aware of how you bring the ball back, and you can focus on your backswing. Right? So again, we're here, slow motion, and throw. We have to get practiced at bringing that ball back to that position, and the payoff is really big. A quick release, because it's a quick setup and throw. More accuracy, more consistency. I feel there's very good power. Obviously, sometimes the big swing people think helps them, and there is a bit of truth in that, but I find that consistency, using the right muscles, focusing on the hips, it in fact leads to more powerful throws as well. Now when we do this, we'll often start at 10 yards with this drill, 15, but we'll work where the quarterback is throwing really 90%, if not 100% of their distance. So work this drill over different distances.